Welcome back, everyone, to the Delusional Fan with Geraghty McCloud. Chris Geraghty here. Ryan McCloud is sitting right there. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube page. Make sure you join us on Facebook and Twitter. Anything you want to know, anything you want to hear, anything you want to comment, especially on the last segment, our top 5 championship performances. We want to know what you guys think. Last week, Ryan and I did our first ever fan participation segment, even though we want you to participate on everything. That's me. I'm just a glutton for punishment when it comes to that. What we did is we asked you 4 questions. They were all what-ifs. They're all completely stupid, ridiculous questions, but we just want to know what you thought. We'll give our opinions. I thought they were both pretty good. We had brought a few of them up before.
Ridiculous.
They're a little ridiculous, but
they're reasonable though.
So let's do this. Let's do each question individually. We'll go over some of what the fan responses were, and then maybe you and I can talk about what we think, because we brought them up obviously because you and I had thought a little bit about that too. Right. So why don't you pick one of the 4 questions, Ryan? I'll go over some fan stuff. We'll go from there. Okay.
We'll just start with my my 2. Number 1 would be, what if Michael Jordan was drafted by Portland? Ahead of Sam Bowie.
And I know you love that question.
I thought there was good responses on this. Some people got really into it and thought way into it, which is good.
In this one might be the most broad, just because
there's so much to take into account.
The other questions that had to do with just players' careers, maybe lengthening or things like that, you saw the path they were on, so it's maybe easier to take that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is
starting from scratch,
completely out there. So we'll go John Pett first. Okay. So John is a listener, a friend of both of ours, good guy. So John said, Jordan being drafted by Portland would certainly change a few things. No, I'm kidding. He does more than that.
I was going to say.
He says, I'm not sure how many titles he won, but probably, this is what was crazy to me, probably at least 1. So he's not even confident Jordan and Portland would have won more than 1. Mm-hmm. I don't know about that. Okay. So this was a big thing for John. He wouldn't have had Pippen, Grant, Kukoc, Rodman, or Phil Jackson. But what John does go on to say in this is that he would have still been the most dominant player of his generation, but Portland would then not have drafted Clyde the Glide.
So at least what I would take from, and I think I remember him saying that they wouldn't have drafted Clyde, but
yeah.
So that does change a lot, you know? That would change a lot if he's not with Clyde Drexler. You're kind of taking that into account. You're kind of saying, what if he was just on the same team?
They play the same position, team. So they wouldn't have drafted Clyde.
It's not, but again, it's not. Who's to say that still wouldn't have worked? The fact that they play the same position, they're two
alpha males playing the same position. You just don't have 2 shooting guards that are all-time greats, because Clyde don't mess it up as an all-time great. I don't think on the same team would have worked.
And I'll say this, and maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe it would have for a few years. And again, this is the whole point of a what if, is there's several different takes and you know what I mean, directions it can go. So what if Clyde is on that team? What happens? Maybe it works for a few years, maybe it doesn't. I think the biggest thing from what John said is, and I thought that was actually really good what he said, the biggest thing is he wouldn't have had Phil. Like all the players and everything that come into mind, Kukoc and Rodman and Paxson and Kerr and everybody that comes to mind, who's to say again that would
is that a product of Phil? Is that a product of Reinsdorf?
And that's what I mean. And I think that is a product of Phil. I do.
All right.
I think Phil was kind of the binding agent between everything. Nobody. I mean, his record speaks for himself. He's the best coach in NBA history. He had a way of dealing with egos, and again, that goes back to if he was with Clyde. Yeah. He has a way of dealing with egos and dealing with things. So, and again, that's a different what if. That's if Phil Jackson was the coach of the Portland Trailblazers.
So Adam Paul.
Yeah.
Jordan and Portland, they get a few rings for sure, but so do the Knicks and Ewing.
Probably there to stop them.
Probably still the greatest of all time.
I agree with that.
You agree with that?
And that's
so
one thing that
if
John,
Portland plays the Knicks in the finals?
And that's one thing that John said that was contradictory was, if you're going to consider him the most dominant player of his generation, how is he only finishing with 1 ring? Right? He said he would only finish with 1 ring, but he'd be the most dominant player of his generation. I
didn't say only 1 ring, but maybe 1 ring. Like he was only
So
like,
again,
he brought up 1 ring. Yeah.
Maybe one. Okay, so I think he still is the most dominant player. I think that is who Michael Jordan is. There's no changing that. That was going to happen, right? It's whether or not he can learn to lead others, and that's where Phil and other players came in. I agree with that stuff.
So here's where I'm going to disagree with you. And Evan, who is a guy I don't normally agree with, Evan brings up a point I would probably have brought up, which is this is important. So Evan says MJ over Bowie in the draft. Jordan goes to the West and does not face the Pistons, which arguably made him the player that he was. Now he's against the Lakers in that era, probably makes Jordan even better. So I liked everything up until against the Lakers point.
Yeah.
And he says probably makes Jordan even better, takes his run of dominance even earlier. Clyde and MJ is better than MJ and Pippen.
And I remember
I don't agree with that part.
Not one.
Yeah. Portland upsets huge in '88 first round over LA. That's starting MJ's run. Now, I loved what Evan started with there because he doesn't face the Pistons. In any interview you ever see with Michael Jordan, he always credits the Pistons and Joe Dumars with, well, not only Joe Dumars, but guys
mold him and
get that entire squad. Every time he went into the lane, Jordan said it after that offseason. I think it was that first championship the Pistons won. Jordan said that I need to bulk up. I need to prepare my body as much as my mind is already prepared for facing teams like the Pistons and the Knicks because they're just going to beat the crap out of me the whole time.
Right.
So I agreed with the first half of him. I don't think Jordan is as dominant in Portland because I don't think Portland's front office was as good as what Chicago's front office ended up being. When you saw what they did around him and how they let his ego and his leadership take over that team, and they just said, "Let's feed Jordan the people he needs to win." I don't know if Portland would have done that.
I promise you, though, again, the best point that's been made so far with this specific what if is Phil Jackson. That is.
Okay.
It's the most important thing. Because they can put all the pieces together. It's can you get them together, though? Can you make these guys sacrifice and become other players and role players?
I have a feeling in the NBA offseason we're going to talk about Phil Jackson because I think the Knicks are going in the wrong direction.
Tony Kukoc was like the best European player, right?
Basically,
period.
Until Dirk Nowitzki.
And that's what I'm saying. And so they brought him over and they were able to convince him to be a role guy and kind of take one for the team.
All right, so short time. We got to move on. What's the next question?
What if Barry Sanders never retires?
Okay, so let's do Barry stuff here. So I don't think actually John talked about a few things, but I don't think he put Barry in there. So I know there was a couple Barry things here. Let's go into, here we go. So Adam also had a Barry one there.
Yeah.
Barry wasn't close to winning a Super Bowl, not as important to the legacy as running backs as compared to quarterbacks. I don't know what that had to do with the question. Barry Sanders, Adam said Barry Sanders is still considered the greatest among many people regardless of the rushing title.
Right.
Passing Walter just cements it. I 1,000% disagree with that.
Well, no, and I kind of do agree with that in the sense that, yeah, a lot of people do think that he already is still one of the best, or if not the best, if he doesn't retire. That's the question, though, right? It's if he doesn't retire. Like he said, it cements it. He will destroy that record if he never retires.
If we did a top 5 running backs, would Barry be your number 1?
I don't think there would be a question that I don't think you can put anybody above him, assuming that he shatters that record.
But he didn't.
This is why it's a what if, Chris.
But no, I'm discussing the before the what if. He said before the what if, people consider Barry Sanders great.
I don't agree with that. I'm saying I know people who...
I want to know who considers him the greatest of all time.
Again, yeah, I kind of do.
No playoff wins, no Super Bowl. He's not the greatest of all time.
Because my point is, if he doesn't retire, I think he's the greatest running back of all time. He retired early. He would have... And I kind of said this last week or 2 weeks ago when I brought it up. Emmett's chasing him at that point. He's not even close. Like, it's going Walter third with 16,000 plus. Emmett finished with 18,000 plus. Yep. Who knows what Barry would have finished with? He probably could have broken 20,000.
I do agree he would eventually surpass the rushing record.
Plays for 13 years. He played for 9 seasons.
And he would have put himself in a conversation, but I still don't think Detroit would have ever won a Super Bowl. Which takes him, I think, out of the all-time, in my opinion. All right, next question. Next.
Yeah. All right. What if Bo never gets injured? Bo Jackson. What if he never gets injured and is forced to retire?
Okay, we're going back to John Pett on this one. So Bo Jackson getting hurt changes a lot of things. Raiders would have probably gone to a Super Bowl, meeting the Bills, and that would have caused Raiders to stay in L.A.
Yeah. Again, people got into it, which is dope.
I like that. Because the Raiders might have stayed in L.A. because Bo really was that transcendental. Even from his, the whole, remember Bo Knows campaign from Nike that happened during the All-Star game? It was a new marketing campaign that basically trumped any other campaign before it, even the Jordan stuff.
Yes.
So
it was ahead of its time.
It might have kept him in LA and kept that team in LA. So I do like that point.
Me too.
It said Bo would have gotten a lot of yards more than Sanders, Smith, or Peyton.
And this is, and I said this 2 weeks ago when you brought it up. This actually would have affected the Barry Sanders what if.
Okay.
Because who's to say what he would have done if he has a full career to work?
Now here's where I disagree with John. The Royals would have been a dominant team, which means George Brett never plays for the Rays. The way we look at 90s home run hitters would be different because no way Bo uses steroids. So do more players use to keep up with Bo, or maybe players use because of Bo and his greatness? Now, as much what I consider Bo as a baseball player is a freak show. And even when you listen to guys like George Brett and guys that play for that team, they didn't watch Bo because he was the best player in the field. They watched Bo because he did the craziest things that most
something
athletes
that you
couldn't
might
do
not
on the
ever
field.
see
Right.
again. Yeah.
Bo was the strikeout leader 2 years in a row. I mean, there were things that Bo, his average was never great. He was a good outfielder. He had a cannon for an arm. He wasn't the greatest average hitter. He was never going to hit for average. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if he would have been a Hall of Famer in baseball.
No, but again, and again goes back to the what if. Like, if he sticks around, has some longevity, does he potentially get into both halls? I don't know if he makes it in baseball. He would have been in football.
Okay. Adam says, Bo Jackson definitely Hall of Famer in football. Mm-hmm. Believe he would be in the discussion for greatest players ever, not just running backs.
Yes, I agree.
And then here, this kind of goes to, not sure about baseball, but he was a freak. That's kind of the way I look at it. And I really do think, I still put Bo in my top 10 all-time running backs. Mm-hmm. I really think, even before he got hurt, it doesn't matter.
Because, dude, when somebody has a career cut short or retires early, all you can do is take their body of work into account, right?
Yeah.
And judge what they would have done. That's kind of, so.
And that was way cut short. As great as he was, it was way cut short.
And a freak, I think we've talked about it before, like, that injury never should have happened. It was because he was such a freak that it actually did occur.
Right. All right, last question.
What if Michael Jordan lost an NBA Finals? Something I brought up week 1.
Yes, and that's why I love this question so much because, and it goes to kind of what we're dealing with right now, our first segment, NBA Finals, right? Mm-hmm. They're talking, LeBron's legacy is always a big thing. And even Steph Curry, how he's not really performing well in the finals, but yet he's the greatest shooter we've ever seen. And, people, whether they think he's great or not, LeBron, and can compare with guys like Jordan. Kobe compares with guys Jordan.
Yeah.
I love this question. Okay, so Adam Paul, Michael going 5 for 6. He's still the greatest of all time, as long as he didn't lose his last one.
And I understand what he's saying there. It's what you remember. If he hits that same game winner, but it's 5 out of 6. That's probably still what people remember.
Well, and he brings up Magic, Larry, Wilt, all lost finals, didn't hurt their legacies. Unlike LeBron, I know we had this discussion earlier.
Bergs, you're an idiot.
Does him coming out of retirement change anything? I don't know. Okay, so as far as Michael Jordan goes, everything is compared. Every time I hear greatest of all time with Michael, you hear 6 for 6 MVPs. That's how everybody starts that conversation.
That's what I keep saying.
The reason I brought up that question is it's more a debatable conversation if he goes 5 for 6. Because you can't then say, you can't ever bring up those stats and you can't lead the conversation.
In my opinion, him losing one final changes so many things. It changes the history of a lot of different avenues, a lot of different directions.
Right.
Again, who is winning one? He stopped so many Hall of Famers from actually winning a title.
Which he did.
Which one of these guys actually ends up winning a ring?
Ewing,
changes their
Barkley,
legacy.
Stockton,
And so
Malone.
that's where it's more interesting to me, is that it's not just affecting his legacy and his aura of being perfect in the finals.
Sean Kemp.
6 finals, MVPs. It changes all of that.
Yeah.
And it's not just his legacy, it's everybody else's. It's Phil's too, man.
Yeah.
Like, it changes his.
Oh, well, Phil would have, what, 10 instead of 11? I mean, it doesn't change Phil's as much as it would change Jordan's.
The craziest thing about Phil Jackson is this. He never once has won a championship without going to 2 more after it and winning them. Besides his last three-peat that he went to with Kobe. He lost one of those.
Video game numbers.
Dude. So it changes everything, though. That's why I like that. That's a great what if. So, yeah.
Thanks everybody for responding to the fan what ifs. And keep them coming
Yeah,
with those
please,
same
keep
4
them
questions.
in.
We'll talk about them next week too. We really want to know what you think. We had some good ones there, and we'll do a fan what if, I think, sometime in the
We'll
future.
start doing more things like this. We'll come up with some other ideas as well. And we want you guys to be involved, though. Like it, share it, chime in, all that good
Subscribe
stuff.
on YouTube. That's what I posted to now. I'm getting a lot of heat from some of the video files out there that will not watch videos and would rather hear some SoundCloud stuff, putting it all together. So we will get this also so you can listen to it in the car and not have to worry about a video. But either way, thank you again for listening to us. We don't do this without you guys listening and paying attention and commenting and being our friends and family and loved ones. And hopefully then that'll spread out to more of you out there. So once again, this was The Delusional Fan, Chris Geraghty, Ryan McCloud right here, and we'll see you next week.
Oh, sure.